Okay, section 3.1, question E3. This is a fun one. Again, we are in the realms of authentic data again. We have this a little bit outdated, 10 years, and there's been some mergers, but nevertheless, these do reflect some of the patterns that have happened. Kind of surprised me, actually. I wasn't expecting Delta to be so bad, nor some of these, maybe like United, to be so good. Interesting side note, if you are reasonably adept with a credit card, responsible with a credit card, most of these airlines have deals right now where you can get several free flights just by getting a credit card. And then if you cancel after 6 months, between 6 months and a year, you'll never get an annual fee. It's an amazing opportunity. My wife and I flew to Asia recently free thanks to these deals, American, and have some trips in the United States with United and Southwest, and a European trip planned to Delta, all free thanks to these current credit card deals. So maybe something you want to look into as we're talking about airlines. Okay, so which airline has the worst record for mishandled baggage? So we're looking at the axes here. Mishandled baggage is right here, per thousand. So is it good to be low? Is it good to be high? Well, let's think about that. So someone down here, out of every 1,000 passengers, 4 would somehow get their baggage lost or stolen, whereas up here we'd have 8.5. So this is certainly worse. So if we're looking at the airline that mishandled the most, we don't care how they are on the y-axis, but on the x-axis, Delta certainly had the worst rating with a little bit over 8. So Delta had the worst record. Worst record for being on time, we're looking at percentage of on-time arrivals here. So in this case, a high number is good. We want a high percentage of on-time arrivals. Low is bad. So Northwest here had the lowest. In fact, only 2 out of every 3 planes were actually arriving on time. I don't know that I've ever traveled with Northwest. Where on the plot would you find the airline with the best on-time record and the best mishandled baggage rate? And by best baggage rate, I guess what they're meaning here is lowest rate. So we want to be high here, but we also want to be low on the x-axis. So high on the y-axis, low on the x-axis. Notice that America West has the best percentage of on-time arrivals, but United has quite a bit lower mishandled baggage rate. So either of these would be potential answers, but I think if you're looking at the combination, United would tend to be best. But they're just looking for a general region here, so certainly the upper left would be the place to look. Considering the on-time record, which airline is best overall, as we just mentioned. So we really don't care at all about the x-axis. You can picture all these dots zipping to the y-axis kind of as a magnet effect or something, and if they would, the top value would be America West at almost 82% of their flights arrive on time. Considering the mishandled baggage rate, which airline is best overall? So now we're just zipping everything. Picture this gravity field suddenly getting much stronger and all the dots drop to the x-axis. We don't care at all how high they are. All we care is their x-axis. And in this case, United would have the lowest x value, in other words, the least amount of mishandled baggage. Okay, we have a statement. American has a mishandled baggage rate that was more than twice the rate of Southwest. So we are just looking at the x values. We don't care at all about the y. And we're looking at America and Southwest. Now we have to be careful here to look where these axes start. They do not start at 0. So for example, Southwest may be about half, well, Continental may be about half of what Northwest is, according to this chart. But that doesn't mean that they had half as much mishandled baggage because this is not 0. This is at 4, so it's not to scale proportionally. So if we're looking at American and Southwest, here's Southwest, here's American. Southwest is about 4.5, American is 6.5. So Southwest did not have half the rate. They would have had to have 3.25 to have half the rate of American. So American, another way of phrasing that, American did not nearly have twice that of Southwest. So that's false. Is there a positive or negative relationship? So we're getting into the sense of correlation here. If you kind of picture that trend line going through these dots, the regression line, it would be angled down, maybe influenced by Northwest a little more here, but it would certainly have a negative slope. So we would say that this is a negative relationship. Is it strong or weak? How closely are the dots clinging to that line? I mean, you can picture the line fairly well, but then you have a couple of these outliers, so we would say moderate. There is an extra credit activity that gets you to practice looking at the strengths of correlations, so you can look for that in the module week 3 on Blackboard. And finally, would you expect the relationship to be roughly the same for data from 10 years ago for next year? That's probably the least certain question on this page. For one, I think we've had some consolidation. I can't remember if any of these have merged. I think they may have. If an airline company would look at these, they would probably want to do something about it. So Delta looking at this would probably want to do something about how they handle baggage. But those kind of things tend to be very hard to enact. There's a culture within an airlines, the way things have always been done, that changes usually fairly slowly. So I think that's why they chose yes. Again, this is subjective, which is why I do give some extra points to account for questions like these at the end of the course.